Alright, let's dive into some more Swift basics. The topics I'm going to be covering in today's lesson are commenting, printing, semicolons, declaration and assignment, type inference, type conversion, and basic operators. These may seem like a lot of topics, but they're really small, so we'll get through them pretty quickly. To start us off, I've pulled up some of the code that we wrote in last time's lesson, which was about data types and variables. The first topic I want to cover today is commenting. And I actually used commenting last time, but didn't explicitly say what exactly it was. So comments are these green things right here, and basically comments are really useful to developers to document their code. A lot of the times you may be writing some complex code or working on a team, and you or someone else may have to come back to the code and understand what is going on before moving forward. And comments basically help you do that. You can use single line comments like right here, or you could use multiple line comments like right here. So if you want to do a single line comment, you just write 2 slashes, and anything after those 2 slashes on that same line will be considered a comment and not picked up by the compiler as code. So you can write whatever helpful hints you need to, etc. Now, if you want multi-line comments, you start off with a slash, and then you write a star, and then you can write whatever. You can go on to the next line, keep writing, etc. And once you're done with the comment, you type a star, and then a slash, and that ends the comment. Okay, so now let's talk about printing. Printing can be really useful when debugging some of your apps, because sometimes you want to know which parts of your code have actually gotten executed. So you may want to add a print statement that saying, hey, I got here, and then that would print to the console and you would know. Or you may want to know the value that a variable holds at a given point in time. So you may print out the variable to the console. Printing in Swift is really simple. All you have to do is use the print function. So let's say I wanted to print the value of score, for example. I would say print score, and now if you see in the console, 500 is printed, which is the value of score. Similarly, I could also print out message, and hello would be printed out. Now, one important thing to notice here is that 500 and hello were printed on separate lines. That's because by default, the print function adds a line break to the end of whatever you're printing. So let me write that down for you guys. Print adds a line break to the end. Cool. So one cool thing is that not only can you print variables or constants just like that, but let's say you want to print it as part of a message. You want to say you want to print out to the console that, hey, the user's score currently is the value of score. You can do that with one print statement, and you don't have to separate it onto multiple lines. And the way you do that is, let's say first we type the user's score is. So if we let that run, then it's just printing out the user's score is to the console. But we want to also print out score. And the way we can do that is we add a backslash, we add a parentheses, we say score, and then we close the parentheses. And now it says the user score is 500. So using this, we can nest any value in any string that we want to print. And what this is called is string interpolation. Really useful, so remember that. And obviously, we can also just print out, numbers, or, hello, any sort of literals. And for those of you guys that don't know, literals are the exact values themselves. So over here, for example, score is a constant, 500 is the literal. User logged in is a variable, false is the literal. Awesome. So let's move on to the next topic. Alright, so next let's talk about declaration and assignment. To get us started off, let me pop in one line of code. Var my score equals 50. This line of code looks really simple, and it is, but it has two different parts to it. The first part, var my score, is where you're declaring a variable called my score and telling the compiler that, hey, here's this variable called my score, and I'm gonna use it sometime in my code. The second part is assigning my score to a value of 50. So there's really two parts. The first part is the declaration, and the second part is the assignment. And you can do this on multiple lines too. So let's say at one point, I just want to declare a variable, but I don't have a value to assign to it. So at that point in my code, I could say var sum score and declare the variable. But when I'm declaring the variable without assigning it to a value right then, I need to give the type annotation. So I need to tell it that sum score is a variable that's going to hold data of type int. And then later in my code, when I actually have a value to assign to it, I could say sum score equals 50. So in this case, this line right here is the declaration, and in this line, we have the assignment. And one thing to note here is when declaring without assigning, type annotation is necessary. And in case you already forgot from last lesson, this is the type annotation right here, int. It's telling the compiler that this variable has data type int. Cool. So one more thing I want to cover is that sometimes if you need some variables to just be quickly declared and assigned, you can do it on the same line. So you can say, for example, var a equals 10, b equals 20, c equals 30. And you don't even have to reuse the var keyword. Awesome. Let's move on to the next topic. The next topic is type inference. So let's say I have this line of code right here, var a score equals 50. Then in that case, Swift can basically infer the type that a score has. Since 50, the value that it's assigned to, has type int, then a score should also have type int. So the compiler does that for you. It infers the type, so you don't have to write in, you don't have to write in the type annotation in this case, because Swift can infer it. However, just as we were seeing up over here, when you're just declaring it and you're not assigning it to a value, so let's say we have some variable b score. Since we're not assigning it to a value in this line, we need to include the type annotation because there's no way for Swift to infer it from the value that it's assigned to. Okay, let's go on to the next topic. Next topic is type conversion. So oftentimes you want to be able to convert between two different data types. And doing that in Swift is really easy. So let's say you have some variable d equal to 52.4. By type inference, d is of type double. Because 52.4 is of type double since it has a decimal, so d must also have type double. Now let's say I want d as an int instead. Var d. All I would have to do is say var d int equals int of d. So just take the data type that I want and pass in the variable d. So now, if I print out d to the console, and then I print out d int, it should print 52.4 and then 52. Awesome. So d is 52.4, d int is 52. Just to provide another example, if I wanted to convert d to a string, for example, I would say var d string equals string of d, and that would convert it to a string. And then I can also print that out. That should print 52.4. And waiting for the compiler. Yep, that's what it printed. Awesome. So really simple to convert between basic data types in Swift. Alright, so the next topic we're going to talk about is operators. And we've already used a few operators, so This topic shouldn't be too difficult. The first one we're going to talk about is the assignment operator. And that's really just the equal sign. So if I say var some variable, for example, equals 20, then the assignment operator here is assigning the value of 20 to this variable some variable. Alright, so now let's talk about arithmetic operators. These may seem pretty familiar. They're plus, minus, multiply, and divide. It's pretty intuitive how to use these. Let's just do a quick example. Let's say we have a constant, let x equals 10, let y equal 20, and then we have some variable z, and z equals x times y. In this case, if we print z, then 200 should be printed to the console, and it is. Awesome. Now let's say instead we set z to equal x plus y, then 30 should be printed to the console, and let's wait. Alright, 30 is printed. Now if we wanted to set z equal to y divided by x, then 2 should be printed to the console. Awesome, it is. And lastly, if we wanted to do z equals y minus x, then 10 should be printed to the console. And it is. Awesome. So the next type of operator we're going to cover is the remainder operator. And similar to many other programming languages, in Swift, that is the percent sign. So let's say we have some number p equals 234, and we want to find the remainder when divided by 10. So we can say let remainder equal p modulo 10. And then we can print out that the remainder is, and let's use our string interpolation that we just learned, remainder. Oops, that should be remainder is. Cool, and it prints it out. Remainder is 4. Okay, next let's talk about the comparison operators. And these are equals equals, not equals, less than, greater than, less than equal to, greater than equal to. Cool. So let's say, as an example, that we're writing the source code for Jarvis. And we're given a name. So var name equals Tony Stark. And Jarvis wants to check if the person using him is Tony Stark or someone else. So we can say if name equals Tony Stark, print hello, Mr. Stark. Otherwise, Jarvis doesn't want them there, and he'll print to the console GTFO. Cool, so in this case, name is Tony Stark, so Jarvis checks if name is equal to Tony Stark, and it is, so in that case, it'll print hello, Mr. Stark. Cool. Now, if we change the name to something else, if we say, for example, we say Captain America, then Jarvis will say GTFO because he doesn't want Captain America in there. Similarly, we can write another piece of code that says if name is not equal to Tony Stark, then Jarvis will say you are not Mr. Stark. So if we change this back to Captain America, then the console will say you are not Mr. Stark. So what we need to realize here is that equals equals checks that these two are equal, and exclamation point equals is the same as not equal. So it's saying if name is not equal to Tony Stark. And over here it's saying if name is equal to Tony Stark. So let me just write that in here. Is equal, and not equal. So similarly, and maybe I should put that above just so I don't confuse you guys. So similarly, if we want to deal with the greater than or less than operators, let's say we have some numbers, some constants, let O equals 10, and then let R equal 20, and we want to check which one is greater. And let's say if O is greater than R, then print O is greater. Otherwise, print R is greater. So what should it print? You guessed it, R is greater in this case. So it checks if O is greater than R. Is it? No, it isn't. So it prints R is greater. And I'm sure you could apply the same logic to the other operators since they're pretty simple. So with that, I'm going to end this lesson. If you have any questions, please do leave me comments and I will make sure to answer them. Thanks for watching.